Yo, so we got a Young Thug motion hearing going on right now, right? Brian Steele is grilling. Brian Steele is grilling the state expert, gang expert. Very interesting. This is the part I like to hear lawyers talk, man. This is the part of trials I like to see. Now I don't be too happy to see the prosecution, but when the lawyer is speaking, I'm for that. So he's trying to discredit their expert witness. You know, because I'm sure the lawyers, they're going to have their own experts, but the prosecution had their experts too. And he's trying to discredit this witness to see if he's even able to even testify in this trial. And he's doing a decent job so far, but we ready to get into it, you dig? Ready to get into it, you dig? Hold up. Yeah, we ready to go to court, y'all. Brian Steele is grilling this expert, this gang expert that the prosecution trying to use for the Young Thug trial. It's interesting as a bitch. We ready to check it out. And make sure y'all can hear me, man. If y'all can't hear me, say something, please, because sometimes this thing be geeking. Yo, why is the video not on my page? Oh, here you go. Yo. Alright. Yo. Yo, what it is? Where the music videos go, I don't know. But yeah. Can y'all hear this? The music videos. Are you familiar with children in other countries, on other continents, as well as in the United States, doing songs and games? Things like be mad low. Of children doing that? Anybody with children including athletes. Can you give me a specific question? I'm sorry. This expert is trying to play stupid. Neither of those specific examples I have not seen. You have seen or you have not? I have not seen either of those specific examples. You're just not familiar with that type. Objection, Your Honor. The question was asked and answered. That was a hell of a question. Football players do be saying slime and other rappers. I like Brian Steele, man. I think Brian Steele is a hell of an attorney. So I've seen certainly videos on TV or on social media, other photographs and things of that nature, social media posts that have used some of those specific. Y'all like the video? Share the video for me to our social media so we can get some more people in here and rock out. Why tag the video and shit? That's a great question, and it's one again that I'll refer back to our state law, which gives us the parameters by which we must operate. That includes two things that I think are really important to your question. Sure. So the first one is going to be that the law asks us to show association in fact. So a child on the other side of the world who's using a YSL identifier who has no association in fact with a YSL member or associate. That's not going to connect them for the purposes of state law with the gang itself. The second really important component is, again, that participation in criminal gang activity. The person that we would be discussing, the person in question, has to actually participate in that gang's activities through the commission of certain offenses that are delineated within the law. And then it has to further, do you agree with me? And the judge, we're going to give the law
Yo, this case is all about lyrics, y'all. Damn near the whole
And
case.
I'm trying to remember which specific one said that, but several that I think are important, particularly in this context, are Austin v. State, Magruder v. State. Both of those have some relevant, I think, connection with the current case that we have. Are you familiar or were you taught that case is up on cert as a court of appeals case? I'm familiar that the Supreme Court of Georgia granted that.
I don't know how much time we gonna have. I know they probably coming up on lunchtime soon.
This line of question, and this, I don't know if it's meant to be impeachment or what, but object.
Messy basis of knowledge. I understand. You should
Yo, every good lawyer straddles the fence. And that's what Brian Steele has been doing so far. He's straddling the fence. He gonna get away with as much as he can. I don't think this shit loud.
I do. It doesn't supposedly come out of there. That's where it was created. How did you know that? Well, it's a standard that was published by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, actually, and the Atlanta Police Department adopted that into our standard operating procedures from that source. I've met and spoken with the creator of it, Wes McBride, who unfortunately passed away. But I've actually met and spoken with him about this specific system. In the 6 different
Hold on, I'm trying to tell you the video.
self-admission, identification of a person by a reliable informant, identification of a person by an unknown informant but corroborated, somebody who lives in an area or adopts a dress and mannerisms, arrested with other supposed gang members or an associate, like a catch-all, that's my word, catch-all category. Is all that determined by you? You just evaluate any of these 6 and then you make the determination?
Objection as to vagueness. There's no reference to a determination about who or what.
It's a status. Do you make the determination on whether a particular analysis fits one of these 6 criteria?
I object on the same grounds. For vagueness, there's no reference.
That's not how's that vague?
Whom or
Do you consult with others to employ this 6-part test? Your case. Depending on the circumstances, I may, certainly. How about just do it on your own? Do what on my own? Classify somebody as part of a grocery gang on your own determination on this. Sure, part of the training that we receive as gang investigators is in these criteria and proper ways to apply them and recognize those identifiers. Investigators are certainly expected to be able to review evidence in a case and make a determination that they will later testify to. How can we, as we go through this trial, how can we determine what information somebody self-admitted or what a person, a supposed reliable informant in the other categories, how do we get that information that you relied upon?
objection, Your Honor, as to one, it's a compound question, and two, it's an improper question. How do we get the information during trial?
Let's just do it. I'm asking you, how do you get your hands on the information? That's the background. That's the foundation for these opinions. I'm not sure I understand the question. Where is the interrogation?
That's how you know police stupid. They dumb anything outside of their job.
How do I find that?
Your Honor, I object as to the form of these questions.
They don't know shit outside of work.
Are these data, documents, recordings, memorandum, anything that's tangible? Are they in a place that I can subpoena that you can bring to some court if he orders it? Or is it
Mo, what it is?
Your Honor, I object
What it is, what it do?
to the form
How y'all feel about this show? Y'all think they're gonna beat this shit?
in your mind.
I see the question. That's my question. Can I get any of this background? I
So can y'all hear this? Cause it sounds low on my end.
Your Honor, I object as for, to the form of the question for vagueness. If there's a question about a particular person or particular individual that was interviewed, perhaps, but the generalized question, how do I get that memorandum?
Mr. Steele, okay, I got you, Mr. Mr. Steele, I'm gonna sustain the objection, but I think we're going back to the inquiry you made earlier. If there aren't any materials, then at this point, you're gonna have to be stuck with the answer. If he brings anything to court.
Brian Steele is trying to get him to show receipts. How do we know you credible? Like, what can you show us? What can you show us to validate you being this expert witness? And so far, he can't show anything. He just talking. You know, I took these classes. I did this. I did that. Well, where's the proof? That's what Brian Steele was trying to get to.
For the appellate record, if God forbid it's needed, and as you know, because I hope you take judicial notice, I have zero. This is confrontation clause information, which it all sounds like. I'm entitled to it because I can't cross-examine, and it should not come in. And I'd like you to know what you're relying upon, what this witness is relying upon is the foundation of the information. Because if it's not something that's trustworthy, if it's not reliable, then it's 702. Those are all my. But that's my determination. Yeah, but everybody's testifying to so, and I'll take into account those things, Mr. Steele. I'd like a continuing objection. I have no other questions except one line. What?
Your Honor, I would object.
Damn, she object for you even ask the question.
More line of question, so, okay.
Your Honor, I would ask.
You're not, yeah. That'd be fine, sir. All right. What is it you mentioned about specific, this Love, District Attorney Love, used the word lingo. You were answering questions about lingo. You remember that?
I do.
Lingo to me means language, is that right?
I don't know what it means to you. I would agree with that interpretation.
Who has it mean to you?
The same as you said, I would say lingo would be interpreted as language.
So, all questions of lingo, what specifics were you referring to in your column of Ms. Love? We said, yes, it's lingo and it doesn't mean anything potentially to the lay person, but it means something to us. I want to know specifics. What are you referring to?
She asked a general question, so I wasn't referring to a specific set of language in my response to that question.
Well, I'm asking you more specific.
Okay, so can you ask?
Define the lingo specifically, please, as it relates to YSL.
Your Honor, my objection is twofold. As to the first question, it was vague, and as to the second one, define lingo as it relates to YSL.
Come on now.
I think it's a compound question.
How?
Say this, why don't you break it into two, Mr. Steele? Define YSL specific lingo.
Yeah, what's the lingo?
That you have expertise in.
What are these words y'all assuming that they use? See, what Brian Steele was trying to get at, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to get at, and he's going to highlight this at trial, obviously, that a lot of people use slime that's not affiliated with YSL. A lot of people say slut that's not. That's what he's trying to do because, you know, those are all gang terms that the prosecution is saying YSL used to communicate. But what Brian Steele is trying to bring to light is that's not a YSL thing. That's not a gang thing. That's just like an in thing to do right now. Watch when the trial comes.
I'm a little confused by the question.
What is the word? Let's go word by word. What word are you referring to? In your mind, you talk about YSL lingo.
One word that we've discussed already was the word slat.
See?
Where
Told
does
you.
that come from?
I don't understand the question.
I'm
Yeah, I'm serious with the cut out of court cases, y'all.
In their communications.
Been locked up for murder twice. Same
Seems to
charge.
slime
Like,
all the
I
time.
know this court shit.
I don't
Same
think I
case, I
understand the
mean.
question.
Does it have a meaning?
The meaning would be showing an affinity for an association with the gang YSL.
What else besides slap?
Slime.
Using the word slime.
Okay, and what does that mean?
The word slime has actually been used.
Yeah, he gonna get him. He gonna sting him in court. Watch.
Even previous to YSL using that term, generally it's used to refer to a person who is not to be trusted, who's unreliable or of low character, who would do crime or do harm to anyone, regardless of.
He just added that. Hey, you see how he just added to that definition? Somebody that'll do crime or do harm. See, that's why I don't like when they do that, man. And I don't like these type of witnesses because they can make words mean whatever they want it to mean. Slime don't have nothing to do with a person that'll do crime or do harm to anybody. He try to add to the definition. That's gonna hurt him in court.
Maybe expected social norms or loyalties.
Is that the meaning prior to YSL, or is that the YSL meaning?
It's both, and my understanding.
It's a character.
It seems to be yes.
Where did that start?
I don't know the true etymology from that, but I do know from what I've been told from folks from this part of the country that it was used in New York even 20 or 30 years ago to refer to someone who was of low character, who was slimy or would slime someone.
Any other lingo words that you were referring to that is particular to YSL?
All slime means crud ball, cruddy. Can't trust him.
Words that they use because of their territory on Cleveland Avenue, rather than saying Cleveland Avenue, they'll say Cleveland Avenue, replacing the letter C with the letter B due to their association with sex, money, murder, bloods.
And that's because of bloods, I think you said earlier, correct? You didn't say that, you got that somewhere, but your understanding
So that's what they saying. Why it's always sex, money, murder.
are not friends potentially. Change the C with D, is that what you said?
I don't believe that's what I testified to, but yes, that would be the reason behind it, is to show disrespect to the Crips.
So the letter C is not used by YSL, or is it by YSL, or do you know?
I'm sorry, that question was kind of all over the place.
Your Honor, and I object
So that was a specific question. He asked him, "Is the C word not used by YSL?" But he don't want to answer that question because what's going to happen in court is he's going to play music where Young Thug is or video where Young Thug is saying the C word.
relevance in this hearing and for the purposes of this hearing, whether or not the letter C is used by YSL.
Whether or not the direct, first of all, second of
I
all,
did not.
goes to.
That was brought up by direct, so
Definitely, I would allow it.
members of YSL may sometimes use the letter C, yes.
Can you explain it?
I'm not sure what you're asking me to explain.
If it's my favorite letter, why is it used? According to your expertise.
So in my experience, gang members will, in prominent circumstances, like in saying something like they're from Cleveland Avenue, that's sort of a central thing. They seem to be more disciplined in that way in using the letter B in place of C. In their just common use of language, are they always 100% religiously devoted to not using the letter C? Sometimes it gets in there into their language. It really depends on the person and their level of commitment, their desire to represent the gang in that particular way.
You answered that the right way.
What's another lingo that you were referring to that is specific to YSL?
He trying to put his foot in his mouth.
So they use the word slime in several different contexts, I think one or two of which we've discussed. So that can be used to refer to a person as, my slime. It can be used to refer to sliming someone, which is an act against someone else, generally a criminal act. They also use the phrase wipe his nose or wipe your nose. That phrase is often used to definition of slime. I gave
Yeah,
you
you sure?
the definition that I understand and the definition that they've used, including on gang.
That's what you get for adding all the extra shit to it.
They also use it in other contexts as well. For example, like my slime or slime someone and things of that nature.
But is my slime a favorable term?
They seem to use it as a term of endearment or loyalty, yes.
It depends on context.
It does.
Anything else that's covered widely though, I believe is that believe like slime slap, that's what I wrote there.
Yes. And, they want to be specific to your question. They use a lot of other blood gang related language as well.
Like what?
That they've adopted and they use. If you want me to go into more of those
Yeah,
examples.
yeah, of course.
So that use of language includes, again, replacing the letter C with the letter B. Like an example, the word bull. Instead of saying cool with a C, they'll say bull with a B.
That's like the Cleveland Cleats.
It is very similar to that. They will also use the phrase blat that blood gangs use for blood love all the time. They'll use the expression rollackin. Rollackin. It's ROLLACKIN.
What is that?
So the Rolac refers to the founder of Sex, Money, Murder, Peter Rolac. And Sex, Money, Murder gang members will often use the phrase Rolackin, which means hanging out, or it could mean participating in the gang's activities, something of that nature.
You say that that's applicable to YSL?
It is.
We got to show that on court.
What else specific to them?
And Brian still gonna tear him up on the stand. Watch. I can't wait till he get on the stand.
I think that covers a good bit of the specifics of what they do.
What you just said.
Yes.
You gotta do some more research when you get back home.
You said on this Love on Direct day that Jeffrey Williams was part of Rock Group. Do you remember something like that?
I do.
Y'all make sure y'all like the video, y'all. Only got 3 likes.
Getting that information. How did you make that determination to make that statement?
That came from previous criminal investigations involving Mr. Williams and Rocker.
And you still have Mr. Williams part of YSL?
I'm sorry?
Still have Mr. Williams part of member of YSL?
Do I still?
Yeah. Today. You said today you're talking, being specific, including him as a member of YSL.
Yes.
And why is that based on?
Well, Mr. Williams has self-admitted membership in the gang, repeatedly and publicly.
And just give me a couple examples.
I was ready to say when he do that.
That the witness be allowed to finish his answer.
He was finished.
So he's self-admitted. He's been identified by informants of previously tested reliability. He's been identified by informants that have
If them informants been in trouble before, man, they is not credible.
independently. He has resided in and frequented a known gang's area, associated with other known members of the gang, and adopted the style of dress or mannerisms or other identifiers of the gang. He's also been arrested with other members of the gang for crimes consistent with the gang's activities. And there are other
You said 95. What you mean?
professions and other indicators that would show his association with the group.
Who is a known, reliable informant that talked about Mr. Williams? And it's KC, just use his initials.
Well, certainly Casey has. As an example of that, other reliable sources can also include law enforcement as well. I believe that you have discovery, which will include law enforcement reports where he was identified. And we've also had, as we've discussed, interviews with teachers, with school employees and things of that nature that discuss criminal activity related to this gang within their schools, that pointed to information they received about Mr. Williams being a leader within the gang, things of that nature as well.
Has any member, to your knowledge, of the supposed Cripple Street Gang, YSL, been prosecuted outside the Metro Atlanta area?
I believe so. I would have to look back and see which jurisdictions, but there are several that have reached out with what they believe are YSL cases. That information can be acquired. I just don't have it on the top of my head.
You know what counties we're talking about, what cities we're talking about?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
So again, the reason why he's doing this is to show that other people in other states use these words. So you can't basically just say this is all YSL. If people in Chicago using it, do that make them YSL? That's what he's going to try to lead to when trial comes. That's why he asking them questions.
Off the top of my head now.
I want to thank the court. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Harvey? Sir. Now, I'm going to stop probably about 1:30, sir, because I've got some other business that unrelated to your matter. I need to take up, so probably a little bit longer. Mr. Harvey, if it makes it feel any better to you, you can remain seated, just. No, that's hard. You don't have your technical assistant with you? I don't. Okay, all right, okay, all right. Change your mind for one.
Yeah, he is. He good in that motherfucker. He probably got $250,000 in his motherfucking commissary. Who lawyer is this?
But I want to ask some questions.
Yeah, I remember one time, right? My first time I got locked up. It made me think of that when I looked at this lawyer. I had a lawyer from my mother was working at a supermarket and they had like attorneys and shit. So she got me this lawyer that was through her job. Man, her name was Miley Boltendorfer. I ain't never gonna forget this lady. I took this lady to court with me, man. The fucking prosecutors and the judge was laughing at this woman. I think she was like a civil lawyer, but she was fighting a criminal case. I got locked up for a pistol and some empty bags of marijuana. That's when they used to lock you up for that shit. Talking about it was residue in there. I wound up copping out to 6 months probation. But what made me think about it is this lawyer right here with this lawyer's ponytail, with this great ponytail in the back. Look like a public defender, like real rinky dink. I want to see how his line of questioning is though.
I understand. Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Look at his suit.
I understand that part of your training and experience included courses at the Georgia Public Safety.
He talk too slow, y'all. When you a defense attorney, you gotta have a certain bravado. You see what I'm saying? You gotta really have a little bit of swag with it to keep the jury paying attention. I think jury is like that. He don't look like to me. He got no swag. He gonna slow the proceeding up. He gonna need help. But the good thing is, even though they all got their separate attorneys, they all being tried at the same time. So
Yes, sir.
he should have some help.
Also, fortunate enough to design
A bit soggy up, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yo, my advice to the world, man. If you can't afford a lawyer, stay out of trouble, man. Cause these public defenders are the worst, man. I remember one time I caught a hit and run. I just came home. I was on parole, and I couldn't take no deal. Only thing I couldn't take was a step. You feel me? I was going to courthouse in Wabash District Court. So my lawyer was like, she was telling me, hold up, I done got fucking confused. What the fuck happened? So when I go to court, these motherfuckers tried to give me a year probation. Well, I can't take a year probation. You feel me? I'm on papers. So I tell the public defender, I say, yo, look, yo, see if you can get me a stat docket and I plead to the lesser charges. You know, that's not going to violate me. This nigga going to say, well, they're not going to do that. I'm like, fucking man, you ain't even ask them. Like, how you going to say, how you going to tell me they're not going to do that if you didn't even ask them? Man, I never dealt with a public defender since. I ended up having to tell them I wanted to take it to trial, try to be slick, thinking that they was going to throw it out because it was a traffic case, hit and run. Man, they gave me a trial date for 2 days. I wound up going to trial and beating the bitch, though. Yeah, but that was my only time ever using a public defender.
For the purposes of those trainings, yes.
Yeah, sure. But it's your words, it's your presentation, correct?
Those are two sort of separate things. Oftentimes, my training will incorporate information from a variety of sources, as well as the benefit of my own experience, yes.
But it's your presentation.
Ultimately, oftentimes, yes.
And Judge, when I rose before, I was going to ask as opposed to other
Hey, but I'm ready to give me something to drink. Fuck, thirsty as a bitch.
that he is prepared and that he uses his words, his prior statements. I believe we're entitled to them when I ask the court to require the state or the officer to produce those for our purposes because they are his prior statements. That's
Okay, before you go on, did you refer to any of those materials as counsel mentioned before you came today?
No, sir.
So that wouldn't necessarily be a ground that I can ask you to, you could demand me to go ahead and require him to do so. I guess the secondary, has the state tendered any other materials in discovery?
Relates to,
Yes.
no, we've not tendered any materials that Investigator Belknap has presented or of the nature Mr. Harvey is requesting. Or at all, like, we don't have any material related to this that we've not turned over.
Do you have any of the presentations that you did from the last training that, not here, but do you have that available?
I have some available from trainings I've done previously in other settings. Yes, sir.
Is it the same training that you give, materials that you give?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Could you produce that if I ordered you to produce it?
I can produce anything you order me to produce. Your Honor.
If you got it, but I don't. Could you produce the PowerPoint presentation?
My bad, man.
I've done quite a few, so I honestly don't know specifically which training we'd be referring to. I didn't refer to any of these trainings in preparation for this.
The fuck happened?
permissible under Title 17 because they are his statements.
No, not necessarily, Mr. Harvey. It depends.
Look, he lost already.
He is
Right now,
Oh, yeah, he did, man. He didn't say my name, though. He didn't say my name. But he described me. A lot of these YouTubers, yo, I'm gonna tell you what they'll do. A lot of these bigger platforms, they'll shout you out, right? And mess your name up. Act like they forgot your name. But yeah, he did do that. And most people, knew who I was, so that was big ups to him. But if you watching somebody for 2 weeks, you know exactly who you watching. Ain't gonna be no situation where you forget their name. Now I didn't did that before, but that's not somebody that I'm watching consistently. I might have just caught a video. But yeah, sleep ain't good, I appreciate that.
Their statements under Title 17, not
If
necessarily,
DC and Baltimore was to really connect, y'all, on some real shit,
but he referred
that'd be crazy.
during the testimony, they are his statements.
Well, he hasn't referred to them.
They wouldn't know what to do. Entertainment be fucked up. They wouldn't know what to do, bro.
What the court's understanding is that he hasn't used them in preparation of his testimony, nor has he referred to anything on the stand that I could require him to go ahead and produce those. Many people become subject matter experts.
Yeah, he did.
Just based on a lot of things, but if you ask me at this point in time, it's not producible as of yet. I'm not saying that it may not be, but
I was just saying like for other people. Like I done had people shout me out, say keep it news. I mean, keeping it G news. Motherfucker, Google that or on YouTube. My name ain't gonna pop up.
which one are you talking? Which one are you asking?
But it be intentional.
He testified to
A lot of times it be intentional. They intentionally do it.
his experience and training because they went into it under wrap as the basis for his testimony. And it's his statements that's different from materials that he may have read.
Yeah, he ain't no good, man. Whoever attorney that is, they need to try to get a panel lawyer. Them public defenders ain't nothing, bro.
Specifically asking
Normally when it's a whole lot of different defenders, you gonna get panel attorneys. You know, they normally that's normally how they do it. That's basically an attorney paid for by the state, but it's not a public defender. You know, they really fight for you.
Your Honor, one, I object to the characterization of what I believe Mr. Harvey is saying he's entitled.
You can't hear it?
There has
I
been
asked motherfuckers could they hear it.
no testimony from
I don't be understanding why my shit be so low like that. Yo. Y'all don't know why this shit be so fucking low. Default speaker. Should be low for no reason. Hold up, y'all. Matter of fact.
the witness that he relied on his presentations to form the basis for his testimony. I believe that argument on the part of Mr. Harvey conflates two separate things that the witness has said. He has a basis for the testimony he's given. It's his experience and training. And based on his experience and training, he has spoken with other people and shared knowledge that he has. But that knowledge, those whatever materials that he disseminated, does not equate to what he said or spoke to the other people, such that Mr. Harvey is calling it his former statement. It's just they're
at this point, Mr. Harvey, I intend to,
Yo, it's turned all we up, man. I don't know why I don't be loud.
it may change. I think in order to be produced, but not.
let's go back to the training that that you told us about at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. Okay?
Yes, sir.
There are several different classes that they teach there, correct?
Yes, they do.
One of the classes is gang recognition and identification training, correct?
He giving them help.
Okay, you told
Why would he mention it? Why would he mention where he got his teachings from?
Would not be that specific course.
did you take the gang investigation and prosecution training course?
In the current form, no, sir.
All right, in any form.
So
The fuck happened?
And I'm sorry for the weirdness of the answer. So the course that I took was the 40-hour class listed here on my CV. I took that class back in 2012, this gang investigators course. Since that time, the class was revamped by a gang training coordinator, Jose Ramirez, several years ago. I did. I'm aware of that, those changes in that training and that curriculum. I have not attended those classes specifically, although I have served as an instructor on occasion in those classes.
And that's the gang investigation prosecution training course. That's a 3-hour curriculum. Right?
Yes, sir. And I believe that titled course is the new iteration of that class.
Was there some difference between the current iteration and the iteration that you took?
I believe there have been some updates and some changes to the training, yes.
And do you recall what they might be?
I wouldn't be able to tell you specifically without laying the two next to each other. I do know that it was just updated with more modern trends and some more modern gang identifiers and things of that nature.
Did the course that you took
You say it's louder now?
follow the same format as Mr. Ramirez's course?
So it's good?
Through Mr. Ramirez's entire course, I could not honestly answer that.
Did you have a registration and course opening in the class that you took for 1 hour?
Y'all let me know if y'all can hear it.
I don't understand the question.
Well, the curriculum that you took at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, the 40-hour course, did it open up with a 1-hour registration and course opening?
I don't have any idea.
Did it have then 3 hours of the Georgia Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act?
I understand what you're asking. I don't remember the breakdown of how. I mean, this was over a decade ago. I don't remember the breakdown of how many hours each section has.
Which you told us that helped form your training and experience.
Alright, back.
Is that right?
It's part of my training experience, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking you what you remember about that course.
Well, the specific schedule for the course, I don't. I'm sorry.
The subjects. You remember the subjects?
I do.
Okay. Was there a
Good looking, Slick 410.
the Georgia Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act?
Yes, sir.
Was there a block on case law review?
Likely, there was.
Was there a block on search warrants?
He talk too slow, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Was there a block on case
That's how Rolling Walk used to be. He used to piss me off. He used to go to sleep in court.
I don't.
Like, I'm in here fighting for my life, and you in this bitch going to sleep.
there a block on becoming a gang expert witness?
There was a block related to gang expert testimony, yes.
Yeah, how long was that? Was that a 5-hour block?
At this point, sir, I honestly can't recall.
But he'll wake up and know everything that's going on.
How did you become an expert?
Says the Lord louder.
The subject
Y'all don't know. Hold on, y'all.
of that, to the extent that I recall, was related to the standard of expert testimony in the state, the expectations of expert witnesses in testimony,
Alright, that's why.
things
Here we
of that
go.
nature. The specifics beyond that
There go, y'all.
are escaping me at the moment.
Because this was over a decade ago when you took the course.
That's correct.
Was there a large amount about available resources for gang investigation? Do you remember?
Without defining a large block again, I don't remember.
Those 7 hours.
I don't recall how many hours were devoted to that specific area.
And then there was a block related to a final.
The value was down on
We did have
on
a final
YouTube.
exam in the class.
And was there, were there any forums?
This computer not loud though for some reason. My kid's computer, I can hear that shit all the way upstairs.
Georgia Public Safety Training
I
Center.
paid down there $1,000 for this computer, and that shit is not loud.
If they were, I'm sorry.
Were there any forums that were suggested in gang investigations from your training at Georgia Public Safety Training Center?
If you could be more specific, that would help.
Sure. Did your training include a profile report, a gang recognition?
Let's see. Let me walk off.
Profile report, 2 pages.
Not that I can recall.
So there wasn't any form that you were to fill out in order to identify anybody's particular profile. Is that correct?
Not that I can recall, no, sir.
And there is no form that you fill out today with regard to anybody's profile.
I think there's some terms that would need definitions for you to answer that fairly.
Okay, well, I'm just using the GPSTC Police Academy Division profile report. Are you familiar with that?
No, sir, I'm not.
So that's not something that you would fill out.
It isn't, no, sir.
All right. Well, doesn't the Atlanta Police Department also have standard operating procedures?
We do.
And I would assume that the standing operating procedures are procedures that you follow.
I know Brian still be in the room with these attorneys like, oh my gosh, where did he find these
Follow
people?
those procedures.
I do.
Okay. And do you get to determine when you follow those?
I really think they just trying to drain Thug money.
They're to be followed.
Take his money, you take his power.
That is the purpose of them, yes, sir.
Okay. There is a procedure for collecting data on gang-related crimes. That's part of the APD SOP, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that was effective July 2012, correct?
I don't know.
And that's APD SOP 3067. You're familiar with that? Procedure for collecting data on gang and related crimes, correct?
Without referring to the SOP again, I wouldn't know the section number and specifically what it says within that policy.
You know, what you know then?
That
Fuck you, how you an expert, you don't know your stuff?
form has a number of related items on it, and its purpose is to establish procedures for gathering data on gang-related crimes, correct?
Again, without referring to the policy, I won't want to testify to what's in the policy.
Well, you've told us that there were some SOPs that you follow. This is one of them, correct?
It is one of our SOPs, that's correct.
Control upstairs.
Yeah, it requires, I'm sure you're familiar with it, officers responding to the scene of a crime shall collect any existing records and or evidence of gang involvement, correct?
Yes.
All right, patrol supervisors shall review officer reports in field contact tabs on ICIS for proper documentation of gang involvement.
Again, you're reading from the policy. I haven't had the opportunity to review it, so I'm happy to take you at your word for what it says.
Well, have you reviewed officer reports in field contact tabs?
Have I reviewed?
Yes.
Yeah, you already
in
know.
what context?
It's a money grab, yo.
Testimony in this case.
Could you be more specific?
Their whole case is built off of lyrics and informants that been in trouble before. That's their whole case. Like when I read through this case, I ain't really find nothing real substantial. Now, Young Thug and I was doing a lot of incriminating things, you know, putting shit in the music, posting on Instagram. I know they got that post where they was standing on Lucci car. I know that's part of the case. They're gonna bring that up. Some of the things he said in his songs. But they don't really have no eyewitnesses. That's what I'm saying. Young Thug is not a gang. I mean, YSL was not a gang, man. YSL was a whole bunch of guys doing individual shit. And it's not in furtherance of the gang. It's in furtherance of themselves. A lot of these guys was robbing. Like, what the fuck is you robbing for? Robbing females. Like, yo, how is that in furtherance? How is that pushing the gang agenda forward? A lot of these niggas was broke. They probably didn't even had no connection to Young Thug. Young Thug just was the label, the head of the name. Shit wasn't no gang, man.
Well, have you reviewed any field contact tabs with regard to?
No, they haven't. Nope, they haven't seized any of these assets.
Your Honor,
You know, it's a
I
state.
object
This ain't the
as to
feds.
the form of the question as it relates to field contact.
But nope, they ain't seized none of his assets.
That's.
They probably froze the bank accounts. Cause I remember when it first happened, his sister was talking about how they ain't got no money. But they might have released that by now.
You know what field contact tabs are?
I don't actually.
Okay, so we've got an SOP that talks about field contact tabs, and you don't know.
You gotta think, yo. He probably paying. He probably gonna pay $5 million to get out if he beat us.
Finish
Hey,
my
hey,
question.
Mr. Harvey.
Oh,
Let's everybody take it down a couple notches to begin with, okay?
How about let me finish my question?
All right, but we're not gonna yell and scream. We're not gonna yell and scream at one another, okay? All right. So,
okay.
what was your objection, Ms. Lyon?
My objection is to the form of the question regarding and Mr. Harvey's assertion into the record.
Old
that
school
this
ready to go.
is
He's ready to go
what
off.
The standard operating procedure says.
I'm gonna sustain this as a form of question, Mr. Harvey. Just go ahead and rephrase, okay?
Do you know what field contact tabs are?
From your reading of it, that refers to something within.
I'm going to object. If the
Damn.
basis of the witness's knowledge is an assertion made by Mr. Harvey, and what Mr. Harvey has stated is not evidence, it is not in the record, I would object to this as speculative unless Mr. Harvey wants to enter something as evidence and we can refer to it then.
I'll be glad to enter it after lunch, but you know, hearsay is admissible in 104 hearings, so I get to ask about it, plus he's on cross-examination.
And Your Honor, the witness has testified as to a lack of knowledge regarding.
Yeah, he's already, Mr. Harvey, I agree. He's already testified. He's not familiar with the 2012 manual that you were referring to at this point in time. So, he's already given you kind of that particular answer.
Okay, so am I to understand that you're not familiar with this particular SOP?
And Your Honor,
God damn.
You know, I can ask about each one of the contents of these, Judge, but I'm trying to shorten it and say, look, you're just not familiar with it, period.
I think you did ask it already, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And the SOP, if you understand it correctly, or if you don't understand it at all, isn't there a report, a box on the report of officers that should be checked according to the SOP if there is suspected gang activity?
And Your Honor, the objection is as it relates to the SOP, so that it's a vague question. Isn't there a box as it relates to the SOP that should be checked if there is suspected gang activity?
That's not no vague
If
question.
Mr. Harvey is talking
That's
about
a direct-
specific standard operating procedure, something specific, then I would ask that he reference that.
That was a
specific
direct
thing.
question.
But his question posed to this witness regarding the SOP, there's nothing, he's not presented the witness with anything to look at, there's nothing in
It's
evidence.
really improper because you got to give the witness opportunity to confirm or deny, and you're holding the document at this point in time. So he's already told you he doesn't know the 2012 without looking at it.
Well, fine, then I'd ask to continue after lunch. I'll print out a copy of it, but this goes to his basis of knowledge. He testified
It
on
does.
direct examination that he followed APD.
Yeah, he should know the book.
Asking him about the
Why don't
said-
you let him look at it?
I said
Maybe
that
he should
earlier.
update it since then. I don't know, but just a suggestion.
See, that's why I don't like them judges, man. Them judges be so one-sided to the prosecution, man. You know, they all work in the same office. Like, that's why the United States justice system is bogus. It's the United States border system, man. He probably done worked a million cases with this lady. But if he state's turn, I guess they all work in the same office. So he probably got a secret vendetta against her anyway. It seems like they got problems with each other. But the judge is always one-sided, man. Not always, but 80% of the time, I would say.
Whatever your pleasure, sir. Then I don't.
Cause I beat that hit right by the judge, basically not siding with the prosecution.
Like, we don't know.
That was the first time I ever seen that.
Well, would you ask someone to touch the screen so we can see the box?
I hate state's attorneys. Time is
I'm just saying it's Latin. The state changed the orientation, so if you need to, I'm just helping him out because he's
I think this trial political too, y'all.
actually walking. So
And Your Honor, based on what is being presented.
They playing politics for
I
Young
object
Thug.
On relevance
And why
grounds,
so?
the standard operating procedure from 2012 as opposed to the current standard operating procedure that the witness has referenced. If the questions are from a outdated SOP manual, I would object on the basis of relevance.
Sure, why don't you give us the,
Well, if the manual is outdated, how the fuck is? Well, he need to take some more courses. If it's outdated, that's what I would say.
APD procedure manual.
How is he testifying to this knowledge if the knowledge is outdated?
My objection still stands. I don't know.
That's what I would say.
Is the procedure manual been updated since 2012?
I believe that it has. One thing that I can tell you would have been updated is that we no longer use the ISIS report management system, which may be the confusion. I apologize to you about the field contact tabs. I've not heard that expression used to describe this, but it was a field in our previous report management system.
Well, why didn't you say that?
What about the reporting by officers in their report as to whether there is any suspected gang activity?
Can you give me the section you're referring to?
4.2.
4.2. Yes, sir. That box again was in our previous report management system, ISIS, which we no longer use.
Okay, so there is no method by which a suspected gang involvement is reported out to either you or anybody else.
Well, I didn't say that. No, it's just that that was the confusion over the box.
Now, what are you
is the
saying?
method by which suspected gang activity in a particular crime or location is reported to either you or anybody in APD? Would you tell us about that, please?
So as part of the report that's created within our report management system, I believe there's a drop down now where they can select if they believe that a crime has a gang connection to it.
Okay. And that is part of the standard operating procedure and should be done with regard to each crime reported? Is that correct?
It would be done in each crime where the officer recognizes that they believe at the time there's some gang connection, yes.
Or anybody that's investigating that particular event would presumably report that out in their drop-down box, correct? According to SOP.
The initial police report is written by the responding officer, and that's where that drop-down exists. It can't be modified later on by somebody else involved in an investigation. So if I apologize.
No, somebody else could write their own report, correct? And they can place in their report whatever observations they may have, correct?
They certainly could.
Okay. So part of the standard operating procedure when investigating a particular event is to recognize whether it may or may not be gang related, correct?
If you can Again, show me where you're referring to the policy.
Just talking about 4.2. Whether or not it's checking a box or whether it is a drop down doesn't really make much difference. It's supposed to be.
Or you basically ask him, how do you know if a crime is gang related? That's what he's asking him. And this gang expert can't give him an answer.
Reported, correct?
This particular section within the SOP refers to a responding officer to a crime scene, yes.
Can you point us to any of the reports that you may have reviewed where there is a notation with regard to gang activities for the activities involved in this case?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
All right. Have you reviewed, and first, have you reviewed any reports that specifically identify any of the events alleged in this particular indictment as gang-related activities?
I told him. That's what he was trying to ask him.
I've reviewed the reports related to the criminal allegations in this indictment.
Yes.
And for the second part of your question, I don't know. I wasn't looking for the presence or absence of a notation in there that was a gang-related crime.
Okay.
So you can say anything gang-related.
No, I can't point you to anything in particular. Is that right?
Objection.
That was a
as
good
to the
question.
form of the question
I ain't gonna lie, he did his thing with that.
and as to
I stand
basis.
as to the second portion of the form. Harvey, you can
If he do that in front of the jury, that might hold some weight.
Have you either prepared or reviewed any GISAC requests for information or profile reports? You know what I'm talking about, correct?
I don't believe so.
All right, well, doesn't the GBI keep or have a form for requests for information and sharing information?
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is the GBI.
Intelligence requests related to gangs?
I don't know the answer to that question as far as the GBI's forms.
Okay, wasn't that part of your training?
But part of which training?
Well, your training at the Public Safety Training Center, the block that included sources of information.
I don't recall that training covering some form from the GBI to request information on gang information from GSAC. It could have, I just don't recall.
So, but the answer is that there are none of those reports or those type reports that you have prepared or reviewed for this case, correct?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
How about SARs? You know what an SAR is, right?
I do.
Suspicious activity report.
I do.
How about any of those?
I have not reviewed any of those, no.
Or prepared any of those with regard to the allegations in this case?
I have not.
Okay.
You already know. Salute.
One moment, please.
Yes, sir.
That's just the beginning, y'all. Once this shit really take off, I'm ready to show these niggas how you really supposed to do YouTube and how you supposed to. See, I don't like how
All right, thank you, Judge.
a lot of these YouTubers
Thank
treat
you, sir.
their supporters, man. Like these niggas be acting like, I don't know, I don't really be
Mr.
with
Harvey, I
that.
want to make sure I return this to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got niggas getting all this money, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I ain't even never seen one of them niggas pay the bill for somebody, man. All these niggas be trying to do is get money out of people. Trying to make this shit different. Do it the right way. Niggas be stealing. Niggas ain't getting no knowledge out there, videos. Niggas just be on there talking. I try to make sure you can learn, somebody can learn something from every video I do.
My name is Max Sharp.
Well, I ain't gonna do it if ain't nothing to learn from it.
STEELE. Just have a couple questions for you. First, just going back to the city of, or
the Atlanta Police Department SOPs, do they incorporate what are the Atlanta SOPs for the identification of individuals in classification as gang members or associates?
Hell no.
I don't understand the question.
Of course you don't.
Okay. Does the Atlanta Police Department have standard operating procedures for the identification of individuals as gang members or gang associates?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are those standard operating procedures?
As I mentioned before, we use the 6 criteria, those 6 factors to evaluate whether someone's a member or an associate of a criminal street gang.
Okay, so my understanding, what you're telling us is the Atlanta Police Department has adopted that same test that you testified in.
I wouldn't characterize it as a test. It's a standard, I guess. Maybe that's just semantics, but yes.
Now, is there an individual within APD who is ultimately responsible for these classifications, or can any officer make a classification? How does that work?
So that SOP applies to whomever in the police department is investigating or responding to a gang-related crime. So it's equally applicable to any officer or investigator.
Okay, I understand that the SOPs apply to all officers and investigators. What I'm asking you is the Atlanta Police Department, according to the SOPs, do they allow any officer to make identifications and classifications of individuals, or do you have to be in a certain rank? Do you have to be in a certain division?
It's a good question.
I'm not sure I understand.
Because if you don't have to be in a certain rank, in a certain position, then the system is flawed. It's a good question.
That's the standing objection.
Why?
Have you had circumstances as you're a gang investigator, is that correct?
I am.
Okay, have you had circumstances as a gang investigator where you have disagreed with the assessments already made by others within APD about whether
She gonna
someone is a
object to
gang
that.
member or associate?
Objection as to relevance?
I told you.
Yes, standing objection.
That was another good question. See what I mean about the judge? I knew she was going to object to it.
Sir, regarding you spoke to us on direct about the
Trying to tell y'all, man, when I was in court going through this, man, I'm sitting there, I'm trying to know everything that's going on.
I did.
okay, and
Writing shit down like Thug doing.
quibble over terms.
Straight up.
I think you
Can't let the people play with your life, man, and you don't know what's going on.
for something to be criminal gang activity, correct?
Yes, we're expected to, or the court has asked for some nexus or connection between the crime and the gang's activities.
Okay. And when I believe on direct, you discussed what you said, it comes down to money, power, and respect is kind of how you put it, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, we often find that those are the 3 key motivating factors in our criminal gang activity investigations.
Okay. To your knowledge, in the standard operating procedures, we just discussed a standard for identification of individuals. Is there a standard for identification of whether an alleged crime is gang motivated or gang related, or there's a nexus to a gang? Is there a standard?
There isn't, and specifically, the courts have said that they have not required a test or standard or set of criteria to determine nexus.
Okay, I'm not asking what the courts have said. I'm asking, in the Atlanta Police Department, is there a standard?
We rely on the rulings of the court, and that's where we would draw the investigative tools to make that assessment.
So there's no written standard in the APD?
I'm not sure I really understand what you're asking.
Very simple. In the standard operating procedures of APD, to your knowledge, is there a written standard for determining if a crime has a gang nexus?
I'd be glad to review the policy again, if you can show me what you're referring to. One of the things we talk about is a crime being classified as either gang-related or gang-motivated. I'm really not sure what you're pointing to in the policy.
I'm not pointing to anything. I'm asking you a question as an expert, or someone is proffered as an expert and a gang investigator. In the APD SOPs, is there a standard for determining whether a alleged crime is gang motivated or gang related?
I'd be glad to review the policy for you.
They on his heels about that question. That's the same question the other guy asked.
Understanding specifically what you're asking.
I'm asking yes or no, or I don't know. And I guess it sounds like your answer is I don't know.
Yeah, based on your question, I'm not sure what you're
No, it's not no based on your question. He asked you a specific question. It was specific. How can you determine if a crime is gang related?
Sir, okay, I'm going to ask again. If you're truly uncertain of what I'm asking, APD has standard operating procedures, correct?
We do.
Okay. And within the APD standard operating procedures, is there a standard laid out for the determination of whether a crime is gang related or gang motivated?
No. Just say no.
Not that I understand
Because it ain't.
based on your question.
Y'all can make anything gang related if y'all want it to be. Just keep that shit real.
Objection, Your Honor.
It's a dirty game. It's a flawed system.
The question has been asked, and the witness has given the best answer that he has.
I would disagree with that assessment.
I would concur. Sure, let's just move on.
Okay. When a crime occurs, who ultimately?
Lord Joe can get smoked down the street. He can have a YSL or a YFN tattoo, and y'all say it's gang related. But the whole time, Lord Mopai just took Joe off up the street, and it ain't had nothing to do with no gang shit. That's how that shit work. It's a flawed system.
About the nexus. Is it a gang investigator? Is it a responding officer? Is it a specific person?
It depends on the case.
When would you become involved in making, or when would you as a gang investigator become involved in making that determination?
If I was assigned to work on a particular case.
Okay. And when you are assigned to work on a particular case and have to make that determination,
How do you do
what
it?
is the standard that you rely on?
As stated, based on my training and my knowledge, the courts haven't supplied us with a standard or a test to evaluate nexus in a case. So what we look at is the totality of the evidence within each particular case to lead us toward a conclusion of our own, at which time we would then apply for.
My next question would be, is this absolute? Is this definitive? Let's see what he asks next.
Or indictment or whatever is appropriate, which would be the first level.
How
of
exact
judicial
is this
review.
process?
And then eventually our cases would go before a judge or a jury where they would be assessed.
Okay. Um, as an expert in making this determination, or a purported expert, and I mean no disrespect by that, it's just you haven't been qualified or not qualified yet, okay?
None taken.
Okay, so when a case comes across your desk and you make a determination, is there any sort of peer review within APD, of other officers, other investigators within
That's a good question too.
within the gang unit, or is there any sort of peer review? Formalized peer review.
There is not a formalized peer review process, although
So-
we certainly do discuss cases.
So there's
and,
nobody that oversees this decision.
and share
Jesus, this is crazy.
experience and share knowledge.
This
to
is
make those
crazy.
decisions we can.
Then I would ask the question I said I would ask. Is this process absolute? Which means there's no chance for error. This is a definitive process that works 100% of the time. That's what I would ask.
Are outside agencies or individuals consulted when making these determinations about a nexus?
At times, certainly.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So, in some of our investigations, a subject of that investigation may
Gotta give my kids,
Department of
one
corrections. So we may reach out to them
50.
for information about that person's affiliations, rivalries.
I think they're going on break at
associations,
1:30
things of
though.
that nature. Sometimes we're investigating crimes that were committed by someone who doesn't reside in the city of Atlanta, but has committed something that we may discover has some sort of potential gang relation, and we may reach out to another agency.
But how do y'all discover
The
this?
information or intelligence they may
You still
have
haven't answered that question.
as well.
In this case in particular, are you familiar with the indictment?
I am.
Okay, are you familiar that, with the fact that there's overt acts that have been alleged in the indictment?
I am.
Okay. Have you been consulted in this case as an expert by the state?
Objection as to the compound question, whether or not
How is that a compound question?
Investigator Belknap has been consulted. On the one hand is a question, and then the characterization of as an expert is another. We are tendering.
Oh my
him
God, she's splitting
qualified
hairs.
as an expert, but I object to that compound question being.
He
presented.
better not accept that.
All right, I'll sustain as to form, sir.
Jesus
Have you
Christ.
been consulted
How is that a compound
in this
question?
case?
Yes.
Okay, was that the people that sought your consult, were they representatives of the district attorney's office?
So, I'm trying to answer your question fairly. I've been involved in this investigation and elements of this investigation for over a decade. So,
So you should have all the answers.
I've had conversations both with the district attorney's office as well as with others in my unit, other investigators in the department about aspects of this case.
Okay, I didn't ask exclusively. Have you been consulted by the state on this case?
I honestly don't understand the question.
Gee, man, 'cause these guys, man.
You know.
I understand the question. How the fuck you don't understand the question?
Have any people that work for the state consulted about this case?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are you were you tasked as part of this case with determining the, nexus of the overt acts alleged in this case?
I don't know that I would say I was tasked with it, but I certainly had some conversations and investigative
The fuck is nexus,
roles in
man?
that.
Okay. Have you reviewed, I'll start out with a number of have you reviewed any of the overt acts in this case?
Nexus, a connection or link between things, person, or events, especially that is or is part of a chain
Your Honor, I object on the basis of relevance.
causation, a chain of causation.
And
I ain't never heard of causation, but I understand what they're asking. How are you connecting all these events together?
I'll allow it.
I have reviewed overt acts from this case. Yes.
Okay. Now, okay. Now, I'm gonna say, have you reviewed all of the alleged overt acts in this case, or some of them?
I mean, without you clarifying what you mean by reviewed, I'm at least aware.
What the fuck do
I've,
review mean?
You had some interaction
What
with
you
these
talking
overt
about?
acts. I didn't review complete
Review only
case
got
logs
one
or
definition.
complete reports on all of them now.
Okay, now, these allegations that are listed in overt acts, as an officer initially, you were not assigned all those cases, correct? It involved some cases that you were not assigned as an officer.
That's correct.
Okay. When you were asked to review
You don't know what review
overt
mean. You gotta
acts
remember that.
in this indictment as a gang investigator, what materials did you look at?
Your Honor,
to do these
I
acts?
object to the question and its form.
Should have a prosecutor though.
A matter that has not been
Part
testified.
part of the prosecution job is to stop the groove and stop the flow of the defense, and she's doing a great job of that.
About when you reviewed the overt acts in this indictment, the witness has testified that he has seen some, but the question presented is met.
I didn't say all.
I'll sustain this to form.
When you, okay, all right.
Phrase.
Okay.
He letting all her objections go through.
Some of the overt acts, the ones that you actually reviewed, okay? You with me?
Somewhat. I wasn't asked to review the indictment. The district attorney's office
I didn't-
created the indictment
That's not what he asked.
outside of my influence.
Okay, and you testified that you reviewed some of the overt
Your Honor,
acts.
I object to the use of the word review. I'm not certain whether it meant, have you seen them or did you?
Review means go over them.
Clarification.
Yeah, why don't you clarify that? I'll sustain it.
That's
What
what.
do you mean by review?
You have to take me back.
Oh,
this has
my
all been fairly vague, just to be honest
Man, he
with you.
pissing me off.
I don't know we've ever
Now everybody
established
want to
what
play
we're talking
stupid.
about.
That's what the word review mean.
Members of the prosecution or the state came to you as an expert and talked to you about some of the overt acts, correct?
And Your Honor, right there is, that is the part that
Answer.
I object to.
It's a yes or no, and if it's a no, then it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes.
I object to the question.
She
One,
pissing me
on
off.
the basis of relevance for the purpose of this hearing.
It's goes
Two,
directly to his methodology, so we can put that to rest.
I don't agree, but, two, as to the form of the question.
They put their best prosecutor on this case for sure.
Did you look at some of the documentation?
Yeah, straight up.
The overt acts listed in this case?
Go listen to my music.
Did I look at it when?
Ever?
I've certainly seen.
Now ain't that was what it is. It's my
from
people.
this case, yes.
Okay. And did that involve documentation in the overt acts?
See, if
you
that
were
if that was in somebody else,
assigned as a gang investigator?
he one of the lawyers for I don't know if he a
I
public
don't
defender.
really know where we're talking.
I don't know if he a public defender or not, but he one of the lawyers for one of the defendants on Wild Southside. And what they're doing now, if y'all came in late, they're interviewing this gang expert witness and trying to attack his credibility. What they're hinting at is y'all don't have a certain formula to decide what is gang activity and what crimes constitute as a gang crime versus one that's not related to gang activity. That's where they're getting at. And the prosecution is doing a fucking phenomenal job of not allowing them to get to that point. Even though they got to it a couple times, but they really trying to strike him and say he's not an expert. That's what they trying to do, and I think they doing a good job. Prosecution doing a good job too. But you know, I'm on the side of the defense, man. I'm sorry. I know I ain't supposed to be biased, but I do not like state's attorneys
Talking about, okay, well,
or judges.
so, you reviewed alleged over X, the documentation to alleged over X.
Yeah, Howie.
You were not initially assigned to as gang investigator. What type of documents were you looking at? What type of documents were you?
Right now, they struggling over what's the definition of review. You feel? The gang expert said he reviewed some of the documents that was given to him by the prosecution. So the defense attorney, okay, so what did you review? And the prosecution is not allowing him to answer that question. Now the gang expert don't even know what the word review means. That's what they fighting over right now.
You rely on to determine if there's a nexus or not. That's what I'm asking.
Nexus is a link between crimes. I googled that and found that out. That's what nexus means for people that was wondering. A link between, how can you tell that these crimes are all gang related? And from what we know so far, they don't have a way to tell that. It seems like to me it's just up to their determination,
Your Honor, that's
which makes the whole system flawed, in my opinion.
a compound question, and I also,
I'm literally asking what kind of documents would you rely on as an expert?
and I'm,
Nothing compound about it.
Your Honor, I'm objecting to the form of the question because it presupposes something that the witness has
What
not
the fuck does presuppose mean?
testified to.
Turn these goddamn
You
words.
said he reviewed things. We keep going back and forth.
And Your Honor, the witness also said, I'm not sure.
The relevant part, Mr. Shard, is it, methodology?
What is your methodology for determining if there's a nexus or not?
They don't have one.
Depend on each individual piece of evidence and each case in question.
Okay, for this case in question, what is your methodology for determining if there's a nexus or not?
They don't have one.
So what sources of information do you rely on to execute that methodology?
Your Honor, compound, I
I
object.
stand as a
Okay.
Jesus.
What
This
sources
judge is
of
pissing me
information
off.
Do you rely on?
Objection, vagueness.
That's been asked and answered, Mr.
Well,
Shard.
it hasn't been answered. Your
Yes, it
Honor,
has.
respectfully.
Yes, it has. He's testified earlier about jail calls. He's testified earlier about. Shall I run the list for you, Mr. Shard?
Yo, that is not the same fucking. My bad, y'all. God damn it.
I've heard that, okay? And I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay.
But I can tell you at this point in time that he has.
Judge Glanville on some bull. That's not the same question.
He is based on Mr. Shard. You listen to me. You're going to talk to Mr. Shard. You're gonna talk to Mr.
I mean, I guess it is kind of, because he asked him. It's obvious that there's no standard protocol on how they determine what's gang related. But he's asking them, how do you determine if a crime is connected? So it's a different question, but it's kind of like splitting hairs.
His training, his experience, his listening to.
They all say that though, man. That's
listening
nothing.
to jail calls, signs, language, interviewing thousands of gang members, cell phone, social media, intelligence meetings, and the like.
I understand.
And the 6-point criteria that
And I understand
he's
that.
testified to. So can we tie it to something along the lines of that?
Your Honor, I understand what he's testified to. I agree that he's talked about all those things. What I am specifically asking is what his methodology was in this case and what we.
Yeah, that's all they got is music.
The state has said that they're tendering.
That's why earlier Brian Steele was talking about these words, you know, slat and slime. And what Brian Steele's going to bring in trial is that these words are not just YSL words. It's other rappers that use these words.
In 4 different things. And what I'm simply I'm simply asking him, Your Honor, in plain English, is what documents he's relied on in this case make certain determinations. What documents? I'm not asking about jail phone calls. I'm not asking about a 6-point test. I'm asking what documents that he's relied on. He's testified that he was not initially involved as an officer in some of these cases. So therefore, he's working as a, he's not an expert yet, but he's been consulted as an expert, and he's acknowledged that. And all I'm asking is, what, as an expert that's been consulted, what documents has he reviewed in preparation of his testimony in this case?
She
Have
said
you
one.
reviewed any documents, sir?
I have.
Okay. Can you tell council which ones you reviewed?
And as I tried to tell you earlier, I think
Yeah,
it's
hell
going to
yeah.
depend on each specific underlying count as to what would be reviewed in that particular instance. There are different materials available in different cases.
Okay. In general, what are some of the documents that you would rely upon in making these determinations?
And that's where the objection comes in. It's vague. What are some?
I'll sustain the objections to being vague.
She not trying to let him answer the question because she know he can't answer that question. He's trying to figure out, how do you know these crimes are connected? Based off your knowledge and training. I don't want to hear about no witnesses. I don't want to hear about anything. Based off your knowledge and training, how can you look at this case and determine how it's connected to the next one? That's what he's trying to get to, and he can't answer that question because there is no way. There is no way. There's no oversight. Anybody can just make a determination. Oh, this is gang related. Oh, this is connected to this. And there's no oversight to strike it down or rule in favor of it. That's what's going on right now. And the state's attorney is not allowing that information to come out. No, neither is Judge Glanville. It's frustrating me watching. I know he pissed off.
May I approach her?
You can.
Overact and furtherance of the conspiracy.
Okay. Let's take that for example. Okay.
I gotta get ready to go in a minute, y'all. Make sure y'all share this video on y'all social medias, man. Like the video.
With intent.
Gotta go get my kids from school.
Okay. What types of documentation or information would you like to know in a case like that to determine if there is a nexus?
That's probably an
Sure,
easier
so,
question for him.
One of the important pieces of documentation, particularly as it pertains to gangs and drug distribution, one of the primary sources is going to be previous police reports. Especially as it pertains to your client and his gang, we have a multitude of police reports which show he and other gang associates selling narcotics in particular areas, selling narcotics generally, and selling narcotics in conjunction with other members of the gang. So that would be one piece, because one of the things we have to know to charge the gang act would be what the gang does. If we're charging participation in the gang's activities, we need to know what the gang's activities are. So police reports are one source of that. Field interviews can also be an important source for understanding associations between different defendants or suspects, and also showing certain appearances or association with certain areas or certain territory or turf. We also would talk to and interview gang members. We'd interview people from the community.
Yeah. You can start it over.
Talk to defendants in
But the
custody,
audio
proffer sessions, for
was
example.
kind of low in the beginning.
We would
Probably
also
like the
look
first
for
30 minutes.
potentially the presence of gang identifiers during an arrest. Are they wearing gang clothing or gang bandanas or other sort of gang indicia at the time of the arrest or during the investigation. We, again, as mentioned before, may look at social media. We may look at
Man, the police be burning social media up, man.
on the reputation of the person within the context of the gang and the effect on the reputation of the gang itself. If I didn't mention it already, we may look at who they were with at the time of the crime when it occurred. We could listen to the jail calls. We often...
My next question would be, I would go back to the oversight question. Do you review this with your peers afterwards? That would be my last question.
Seize and extract cell phone data. A variety of sources where
That's
that
what Rilo
information may
did.
come from during that determination process.
Okay. Now, and I'm correct in my belief that what you just testified to is what, as things that you could do. You're not saying that you necessarily did that in relation to over Act 3. You're talking in general terms, correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's answering the question, and if there's a specific,
I'm seeking clarification.
I stand the form.
Okay. Are you saying that you did all those things in regards to over Act 3?
My understanding of your question was that it was general.
Okay. Fair.
Okay, fair.
All right. So, are you? Because we do not have a report from you, correct?
I've not made an expert report in this case.
Okay. Are you planning on testifying that all of these overt acts were done in furtherance of the gang?
Your Honor, I'd object.
Well, that depends on what is qualified as to, so I'm
Well, well, Your Honor, I guess part of the problem.
saying the objections.
Okay, I understand. Can I just state something, Your Honor?
I'd like you to ask another question, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
When can we expect a written report from you?
I've not been asked to
Yeah, for
produce a written report in this case.
And not over here. We keep it real over here. Straight up. Rilo ain't right. He wouldn't be my friend after he pulled that move.
A gang member committing a crime, a known gang member committing a crime is not necessarily criminal gang activity.
Absolutely.
Okay. In establishing that nexus, you just said that one of the things you would rely on is the type of crime it is,
That could be a factor in the decision, absolutely.
because are you saying that certain gangs are known for certain types of crimes?
Yes.
Okay. YSL in particular, what crimes are they known for?
I would say from our experience, a staple crime for YSL is narcotics sales.
Okay, are there any other crimes that, if committed, would be an indicator that it's YSL related?
Objection as to the form. It's,
Can I get clarification? What was wrong with the form?
Vague. Fine.
Just rephrase it, sir.
Damn, you don't give no explanation?
Are there any other types of crimes that are typically associated with YSL?
Yes.
What are those?
We've investigated quite a few armed robberies, auto
You
thefts,
see what I'm saying?
shooting.
Armed robberies and auto thefts. Armed robberies and auto thefts are individual people doing individual things, man. Shit ain't got nothing to do with no gang.
The illegal possession and use of firearms. As we've discussed, a variety of drug trafficking related charges, murder.
Let me tell you what y'all pay attention to. Whenever you got, before I go, and I'm gonna leave after this. Whenever you hang with a group of guys, right? And y'all just beating charges and they throwing cases out and things like that, you know, especially when you've been already in trouble before, when they start tossing cases out, I'm talking about everybody. Your man just beat the charge last week. 2 months ago, your man beat the charge. You just went to court. You beat the charge. Normally, that means they lining y'all up for an indictment. That's what happens. A lot of times we be so naive and we think we just beating the cases. Hell no. They letting you back on the street so you can continue doing what you're doing, and then we just gonna grab all of y'all because we can get more time out of all of y'all as opposed to just grabbing you for this little bit. And plus, they want you to rank up more charges. It's all a game, man. Just gotta know how to play that shit. And YSL now, niggas ain't play the game right. You feel me? It was a lot of indicators that this indictment was coming down on YSL. I'm sure it was. One boy got off on shooting the police. The charges for Big Nut got dropped. Like, these are all indicators that, yo, if y'all don't slow down, they coming and they gonna grab everybody. And that's what they did, yo. And it's like this state to state. It don't just happen in Atlanta. It happens in Baltimore. It happens in D.C. This is the game that they play. But we be so naive, we don't never peep the play when it's going on. It's always too late. Then we get to thinking back like, damn. I remember they pulled me over for no reason, found some drugs and let me go. You see what I'm saying? That's what they do. They're gonna let you go because they ain't get you with what they really want to get you with yet. Just gotta know how to play the game, y'all. But I'm ready to go, y'all. I gotta go pick my kids up from school, y'all. If this is still on when I come back, I'm gonna come back on. Make sure y'all share this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel. I take cash apps if niggas want to do that. And I'm out.